Fixing the relationship that you have with yourself will fix how you allow those outside influences to treat you. Not fix per se, but shift. You need to get so clear on what it means to love yourself that when other people are doing it wrong, you know it. Hello, sunshine, and welcome back to another episode of the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, I hope that you noticed that I did clean my art desk. This new pile of junk is indeed all for one project. So I'm winning. Before the next episode, I would like to water all these plants. That's my next challenge. I'm going to try and do that. We're going to life hack my domestic tasks by me being accountable to the unseen audience. So, hey, hi, how are you? Today, I would love to talk about the idea that forever is how we aim to measure success. We're going to find one career to be in forever. We're going to find one relationship to be in forever. We are going to start one business, and that will be our business forever. And the fact that when we pivot or we change or something just is no longer working for us, we think that it's a huge failure. It's not. Things are not meant to last forever all the time. And it can be nice if they do, but this idealization of something lasting for the rest of your life as the marker of success is honestly, that can be really harmful. Because that means that you will stay in things and situations and jobs and relationships that are not good for you because you want it to last forever, because you don't want that failure. And for me, this is most evident in my life, in my marriages and divorces. So we're going to have some story time now. I first got married when I was 21. I would not recommend getting married at 21, although I can't really say that 100%. I guess you can get married at 21 if you're actually self-aware and not just freaking out and traumatized. Maybe it's different for 21-year-olds who are better adjusted, but I was not well adjusted. I had no idea that I had had an abusive childhood. I just thought that, my mom was kind of strict. I did not understand that I had missed out on a lot of basic human development, trust and boundaries and expressing my feelings. This does not make for a healthy marriage. So I went into my first marriage, number one, thinking that I was never going to find love, because that is how I was raised. I was raised being told that I would not find love because of how I acted and how I looked, and because I was fat, and because whatever. So I became very stressed by the idea that I would never find love, because that sounded like a giant bummer, right? And so I met my first boyfriend. I married my first boyfriend because I was like, well, nobody else is going to love me. I got to lock this down. And he proposed when we had been dating for 2 years, and we got married when we had been together for 3 years. And within 3 months, I was like, this sucks. I don't like this. Perhaps I made the wrong decision. It took me several more years to end that marriage because I was devastated, not at the fact that I was in an unhealthy relationship, but at the fact that it would mean that I failed. I didn't want the shame of having a failed marriage. I didn't want the shame of having a young marriage fail. I wanted to prove people wrong. I didn't want to be a statistic about divorce or about getting married in your early 20s or about marrying we weren't high school sweethearts, but I met him right after high school. So there's, a lot of assumptions about marriages between. Basically, I look back now, I'm like, I was a kid. I was a little kid, basically, getting married at 21. Had never kissed another person, had never slept with another person. I literally married the first boy who touched me, because that's where my self-esteem was. I was like, I better lock this one down. And it was agonizing to realize that I didn't want to be there, to realize that like I made a mistake. And that was definitely when I was entrenched in like, I should only be getting married once and it should last the rest of my life. And like, we're going to have kids and I'm going to get a job at a college and then he'll go back and finish his degree. Like I had a plan. I had a plan. And then I was divorced at 23. And I got married to my second husband when I was 27, 28. Let me see. It was 2016. I was 28. So got married again at 28. And I was like, wow, I am older now. I am wiser now. This is definitely the person that I want to be with for the rest of my life. But I was still performing. I hadn't realized that I was autistic. I hadn't realized I was ADHD. I didn't know I was non-binary yet. I was barely aware that I was bisexual. And he sort of like squashed down my sexuality because he said that he took it very seriously that I was bisexual because that was twice the people I could leave him for, as opposed to just like trusting that I wanted to be with him. I don't know. He was always making up stories about me cheating on him or leaving him for other people. That's because he was a cheater, but that's fine. I was once again devastated that my forever plan was not going to last forever. And it took like those 2 marriages. That's really where it was for me. I was pretty open to having different kinds of careers. I had always had different jobs. I went to school. I got a master's degree in higher education administration and student personnel, which means that I could work at a college in like the administrative or like student support roles. I'm not a professor, but I did career counseling. I did an internship in academic advising, which is like helping students pick out their classes and like planning for their majors and their coursework. I did an internship in conference services, which is like managing people renting the various rooms on campus for events and stuff. So I had all of this experience in different college and student support roles, and then didn't get a job. Like I applied to 100 jobs as I was approaching my master's and then after I graduated with my master's, and I got nowhere. Like I had several interviews, but no offers. And that was a huge freaking bummer, right? Because I got a master's degree. I was like, this is the career that I want. And then I realized, well, that's, I guess, not going to pan out. And so I ended up temping at a real estate office, and I was just doing administrative assisting. I was like checking email and ordering pens and making sure that we had all the right flyers and forms. And then I got my first, I almost said real job, but like that temp job was a real job. It was a job. I went to work, but I got my first full-time job, and I worked in specialty chemical purchasing. So I worked for a company that made silicone roof coatings for like industrial buildings. I learned a lot of stuff about chemicals, about roofs, about energy costs. And I was pretty good as a purchasing manager. So I was like negotiating contracts and meeting with vendors, and I was reducing our costs overall. And I saved $250,000 in my first year on the job. And basically my qualifications were like, I'm educated, I can learn, and I'm good at finding a bargain. I was like, I have a genetic skill to hunt bargains. My dad used to say about my mom that she could squeeze a quarter and make the eagle shit in her hand. And we would always go to like yard sales and stuff. And my grandmother loved yard sales. And so I have this like whole sort of like family history of being a bargain hunter and like shopping at yard sales and antique malls. And I am now realizing that that was a very crafty and fun way to like deal with poverty. Like, yeah, no, I can furnish a home really cheap because I've been poor. And then I got sad about buying all those chemicals and participating in the chemical industry. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna frickin' die. Didn't like that. So meantime, I now look back and I can see all the ADHD the whole time. So I was freelancing as like a blog and social media copywriter. And so I was sort of building this portfolio of copywriting and content marketing. And I would go to like like a little conference here or there, like a 1-day seminar thing in my area, and go like learn about content marketing and stuff so that I could put it on my little resume. And I applied and got a full-time job in marketing. And so I have gotten very used to a pivot, especially when it comes to career. So, like I said, I went to school for higher education. And then when I didn't get a job there, pivot, I started temping. I was also living with my parents, my mom and my stepdad at this time, as I had just left husband number one. And then I got the job at the chemical company. So I was doing purchasing. And then eventually I covered my boss for like a pretty long maternity leave, like 3 or 4 months maternity leave. And I handled everything really good in that quarter that she was out. And like the owner was super impressed with me and was like, oh, we've had like the best numbers ever. When Caitlin was running the office. Yeah, no. And so then I asked for a raise, and he only met me like halfway to the raise that I asked for, because otherwise it would go to my head. So fuck that guy. Just saying. Fuck that guy. So chemical company to marketing. I went from that marketing role. I was there for a few years, changed bosses. So the woman who hired me in ended up leaving like within my first year. And then I got a new boss, Jamie. And Jamie is the best boss that I've ever had. Like, I hate working for bosses. I hate working in a corporate environment. I would work for Jamie again right now. And like, I say that as somebody who is allergic to the corporate environment. Incredible. Jamie was like, we had, I think at the time, an all-female marketing department. Since then, 2 of us have come out as trans, 1 trans man, and I'm non-binary. So we were female-ish at the time, I guess. And Jamie, also a woman, was just incredible at mentoring us and like helping us negotiate for ourselves. Like when she found out our salaries, she was able to be like, I'm going to go like negotiate, because you doing what you do, you should be making more money. And like, she went to bat for us and also helped us know like how and when to go to bat for ourselves. Incredible. That is part of a very small part of something that I really do miss in like having a job, is having like a really good boss who's a mentor. Because people don't leave jobs, people leave managers, people leave bad management. And sometimes they leave chemicals because that makes them very sad. But I was also leaving bad management at that company because we had gotten bought out, and the new corporate environment was not good for Caitlin's, which I found out very quickly, even though still I didn't know I was autistic and ADHD. But looking back now, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a huge like autistic paradigm shift for me, where like all of a sudden I was in the same office every day, but I had a different boss and I had different responsibilities. Also, we're supposed to be talking about the fact that forever is not the only way that we measure success. And I keep getting distracted because I'm trying to tell you my story of nothing in my life lasting forever. I went from that marketing job with Jamie to a new marketing job where I was making more money. I negotiated really well for myself. I did great in the interview, and I was there for like 2.5 years, going on 3 years, before I spectacularly just fucking quit my job. And the reason that I just up and quit my job was it was June 2020. And what happened at the end of May 2020 was the George Floyd murder. And so the whole country is protesting. Companies all over the place are posting, the black square and making statements about Black Lives Matter and making donations to organizations and bail funds and the NAACP. And I went to my manager and I was like, we should make a statement. We could make a donation. Like, that would be very appropriate right now. And he was like, I don't think the owners are going to go for it. So I took it to the owners, and the owners were like, absolutely not. We are not making that statement. Basically, because then they would feel that they would be on the hook for any and all social problems that arose after the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was like, that's okay. I don't love this. So I pushed back a little bit, and he was just like, no, they're not going to go for it. And I had pushed, I guess, to a point where they were like, the ownership wants to see anything that could be considered sensitive content before it goes out. And this included anything about Black Lives Matter, anything about like any protest ever, and also like Pride Month. So any rainbows, any mention of gay people existing was a sensitive topic and was going to have to go through ownership. And I was like, I'm not comfortable working here anymore. And I had planned to be in marketing forever, right? Like I really loved marketing. It was really rewarding for me. And I had a whole plan, and I was going to get a promotion and move up the ranks in this company. And I was really excited about that. And then I wasn't anymore. I decided I didn't want to be the voice for a company who wasn't willing to like stand up for causes that were important to me, and also who treated queer people like they were weird secret monsters over in the corner. So I quit, and that is when I went full-time into my coaching practice. I freelanced. I worked for an environmental nonprofit, and that was thrilling. I absolutely adored that. And it was a lot of fun. I worked for another nonprofit for like a month. That one didn't work out. And I actually ended up going back to the environmental nonprofit. I had reached out to them to be like, hey, like, let me know if anything comes up and you could use like an extra pair of eyes on it or anything. And they were like, actually, we just hired a person and they're not working out. So we would love to have you back for this program again. And so I ended up working for them for like 2 falls in a row. And I'm like, okay, all right. So between freelancing, between growing my coaching business, I have a plan. And through this all, like I kept thinking, okay, like this is my job. This is my role. This is what I'm doing. And I had planned to be in higher education like forever. And then when that didn't work out, I changed. I sort of stumbled my way through jobs that I was pretty good at. And then I was in marketing, and I was like, this is it. Like, I love marketing. I love writing. I get paid to write. This is incredible. And then even that didn't last forever. And you have a choice when something is coming to an end. You can either be like, no, I want this. And you keep doing it. You find a way to make it work, or you let it go. And a lot of the time when we are trying to make it work, we're trying to make it work because it fits in a story. It fits in an expectation that we had about how things were going to work out. It fits into somebody else's expectation of what we're supposed to be doing. And when we make these changes about stuff not lasting forever anymore, like when we make a big change, we change careers, we end a relationship that we had planned to be in forever. One of my coaches and mentors is Simone Soul. I've been in her program home since it was called Joyful Marketing. And I have been able to witness her. She was like a multi-million-dollar a year life coach, marketing coach. And she just one day like sent out an email to her mailing list, and she's like, I'm not doing my mastermind again. And this was like a $20,000 mastermind. I know that this was like a really big deal offer for her. And just like at a very kind of last minute moment, she was like, I'm closing the doors to this because it no longer feels congruent. And she said, I'm going to be doing something else. I can't really tell you what it is yet. And she ended up calling it the Mystery Room because that's how she was marketing it. Side note, the audacity of that is what led me to launch Working Title before it had a name. I was just calling it The Writer Thing. And I love that. I love that I was able to start marketing based on my excitement and my love and my knowledge that Working Title was going to be super awesome, even though I didn't quite know how it was all going to fit together yet. And like seeing Simone be able to go from like she easily could have just kept doing that mastermind over and over again until she died. She was known for it. It was a good moneymaker for her. She had the marketing down. Like she could have just kept doing that forever. But I don't think we're designed to do stuff forever, right? Like I don't think we are meant to find one thing and then just do that same thing forever until we die. I think that humans are inherently like a bit changey. We like some novelty. We like to grow. And like everywhere that I have been, so from marriage number 1 to marriage number 2 to, I call it Slutty Caitlin's volume 1 and 2, I had a couple of like year-long relationships in between volumes 1 and 2. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what I wanted in a relationship, and I learned a lot about what I liked from relationships. I dated a variety of people. I didn't date, but slept with a variety of people and learned some life lessons. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go sleep with a bunch of people to learn life lessons. I'm here imparting this wisdom to you so that you don't have to. Because some of those, I would not repeat. I would not do again. I'm like, looking back, I see that that one was a bad call, and that's okay. We make bad calls and we move on. That's life, because we're not committed forever to one thing. Can you imagine, like, the very first job that you ever had? Mine was at Dairy Queen. But imagine if, like, your first job was the job that you had forever. And there's this kind of, like, baby boomer era mentality of, like, you are supposed to do one thing forever, because that's how they got jobs, right? They would go get a job at a factory or at a company, and then they would move up. And then when they turned 65, they got their gold watch and they went into retirement. Life is not like that now. Life is not set up to actually support our human needs. Like, capitalism does not care about our human needs. And so we hear a lot about like company loyalty and brand loyalty. And I mean, I believe there was an article about how millennials are promiscuous with their brands. And I'm like, it's not promiscuous to one day eat at McDonald's and the next day to eat at Burger King. There are too many brands. There are too many human beings. There are too many jobs and companies for everybody to go do one thing and only do that one thing forever. That's not the way it works in 2024. It hasn't been the way it has worked for some time. And yet we see like job hopping amongst millennials is seen as like bad, as if millennials can't commit to a job. Well, no, statistically, the best way to get a raise is to get a new job, because the companies where we are working don't give raises, or they'll give barely a cost of living raise. I'm going on in a lot of different directions in this episode. I hope that you forgive me and you can follow me. But like, how am I supposed to stay forever where I'm not being appreciated? That's not how that works. The only thing in my life that lasts forever is my relationship with myself. And so like, that's my top priority, is my relationship with me. My number one priority to maintain something for the rest of my human life is my relationship with my human life. Everything else is temporary, fleeting, can end at any time. And even though, like, I've spoken about my marriages here, I am now with a partner who I do believe I will be with for the rest of my life. And we are talking about marriage after being together for like over 4 years. And it's something that we're still like, I don't know if we really got to do it. Like, I would, because I want to be with you for the rest of my life. But like, do we need paperwork about it? And for the first time in my life, this feels like a choice that we can make together based on the benefits, the pros and cons. We can think like, okay, so for health insurance reasons or tax purposes, does it work better for us to get married or not? And with my first 2 marriages, getting married felt like that the act of marriage was the thing getting me like a forever kind of love. But with my partner now, we have built a forever kind of love, and now we are deciding whether or not to get married. That's very different. It's extremely different. And I gotta say, I wouldn't have been prepared for this before my 30s. I don't think that I could have understood this level of like, this is how it's supposed to be after like the childhood that I had. And this is not to go on like everything happens for a reason, but I was abused as a child. I was abused in my marriage. I got through all that, dumped it, was like, we're not doing that anymore. I drew a line in the sand and I was like, okay, now my relationship forever is with me. Now my career forever is with me. As long as that stays okay, everything else is details. So I have now been rambling about my life story, but at the end of the day, that's what I want you to take away from this, is that If you are feeling like a failure because something is taking too long, or because you stopped midway through, or because you got divorced, or you want to get divorced, or you want to quit school in the middle, or you want to change your major, like, as long as you are good with you, that stuff is just details. And it is one of my absolute specialties to work with people who think that they're going too slow or going too fast or missing the mark, or that they have somehow fucked up, when all I see is like a human. I see the human being that you are. And I help my clients when I am coaching with them. Like, I help you understand that the relationship you have with yourself is the only thing that you need to be cultivating forever. Like, once that's on track, then building a relationship with another person, building a career, taking a job, all those things then get easier to create long-lasting versions of, because you are right with yourself, because you know who you are and what you deeply desire and what is important to you. Otherwise, you're going to keep looking for all those inside answers in those relationships, in those jobs. And that's why they don't last, because eventually you figure out this piece doesn't fit in the whole of whatever is missing in my life, because only you can fill your own hole. Let's keep that one in here, okay? Let's keep that in the episode. I hope so. Literally, there's so much absolute bullshit in this world, and I know that it's not easy, and I know that, like, you got to get a job to pay the bills, and I know that it's hard to leave a relationship, especially when there's like finances commingled and children and stuff like that. But let me tell you, fixing the relationship that you have with yourself will fix how you allow those outside influences to treat you. Not fix per se, but shift. You need to get so clear on what it means to love yourself that when other people are doing it wrong, you know it. So I'm going to wrap it up here. All this to say that forever is not equal to success. You get to end stuff. You get to end a chapter. You get to start a new thing. You get to do what works for you, because only operating on other people's expectations and the societal escalator of life advancement is fake. That's made up. It's arbitrary. You don't have to do that. You do not have to participate in that. So do you. I'll see you later. And if you are intrigued at the idea that I can see the bright, shiny light of your humanity and you would like to work through some failure feelings, and I can help you release that, set up a discovery call with me. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you about coaching, whether we talk about creative projects or just sort of like one-on-one life coaching. I got a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff with a lot of different people, and maybe I can help you out. So, love you. See you later. This has been a podcast.